Hi, and welcome to my podcast, Creative Full Time. I am Allison Mullings, and today's guest is an actor and singer in Toronto. She graduated from York University's theater program with honors, and she attended the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London, England, not Ontario. And she has been seen on stage as Wendy in Peter Pan with the Lower Ossington Theatre. She's also in film. She's going to be in an upcoming film called All is Fine in '89. And aside from acting, she's also in content creation for other creatives and creative organizations, an all-around creative person. I am so excited to talk to today's guest. Please welcome Paulina Luciani.
Of course, I'm excited.
So excited. Alrighty, excellent. Let's dive right into it. When did you want to be an actor? Like, when did it start as a wee lass?
So I originally wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, really?
When I was really, really young. Yeah, I was determined to be a teacher.
Nice.
But then when I was about 9 years old, my parents enrolled me in this theater camp. It was my background is I'm half Russian, half Italian. It was a Russian-speaking kind of children's theater group in North York. Okay. And they put me in it originally just to kind of get me out of my shell. I was a very shy child and they were concerned. And all the teachers were complaining about me that I'm too shy, which justice to the shy kids. There's nothing wrong with us. And so I started doing that and the teachers started praising me and I kind of realized that I loved it.
Nice.
And so it kind of started when I was about a tween. When I was 13 years old, I remember the exact moment I went up to my parents and I said, I want to do this as a career.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they hugged me and they were like, we'll support you.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, so it's little 13-year-old Paulina's dream.
Oh, yay, 13-year-old Paulina. That's so cute. Yeah. So then you geared school, post-grad or whatever, post-secondary. I can speak English, I swear to God. To theater school. And was it theater specifically was the dream, or film and theater?
So I wanted to do both always. I originally realized that I want to work professionally as an actor doing film and TV. But I also really loved theater and I really wanted to do theater. And honestly, theater is kind of my home. It's where my heart is. I always feel my best when I'm on a stage. So I did community theater when I was a teenager, and then I enrolled in theater school because of that. It was my safe place.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite role that you've done so far on stage?
So it's between Belle in Beauty and the Beast and Wendy in Peter Pan, which, by the way, my role of Wendy, I did it with the Lower Ossington Theatre, which unfortunately closed down during the pandemic. It didn't survive.
So sad.
But it was a great regional theater and a great first stepping stone opportunity for professional theater artists. It was a lot of it was kind of a lot of people who are just out of theater school. They have the opportunity to do the Lower Ossington Theatre, and it was a lot of people's kind of first paid theater gig and kind of first foray into professional theater. So it's sad that they're not around anymore. But that was a very special. That one was probably my favorite, just because it was my first paid gig. Yeah. It was a special time for me.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. Belle totally makes sense.
Oh, Belle, yeah. Belle has been my dream role my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I truly, I embodied that role. I tried so hard. I wanted to do it justice so much. She has been my favorite character to this day, probably my favorite fictional character ever.
Amazing.
That I just associate myself with so hard. So
I love that. That's so cute. Yeah. So you're an equity. Are you an equity member as well?
I am non-union.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Me neither. So that's I don't know how people get into equity, because it's I like the catch-22 of you need experience to get experience with any union.
Yes,
right?
Even it's the same with ACTRA. It's the whole you need the experience to get in. Yeah. But they won't let you audition unless you have a credit. So it's kind of so what do I do now?
Yeah, exactly. I know. Right. Exactly.
It's that's an issue.
It's a fun journey. Yeah, for sure. I love it. So you went to London and trained as well. Was that before York or after York?
No, it was after. It was actually last fall.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, recent.
It was recent.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So what made you want to do that?
I started working in film and TV because after the pandemic, it was like, the pandemic happened literally 6 months after I graduated from theater school. I graduated from theater school, I got Peter Pan, I was so excited. I also did a couple other like theater workshops.
Nice.
I was so excited. I was kind of like, oh, my like theater career is starting. And then the pandemic happened and like theater shut down for like a year.
Yeah.
And I kind of pivoted, and so then I started doing more film and TV stuff. And I kind of wanted to get back into theater, but I felt a little bit, not like out of practice, but I just wanted to train again, specifically in theater. And there aren't a lot of opportunities here in Toronto to train without enrolling in a whole new degree or a whole new like, 2-year commitment course for theater. So I went to London, and I remember I always thought, I was like, when I think of actors, like my favorite actors, I always think that the best actors are British. The best actors are out of the UK.
Yeah,
so
they just pump them out there.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of get a taste of like what their training is like, or what the acting style there is like. So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's wicked. So what's the process of going over there to school? Do you have to apply? Do you have like citizenship over there or anything like that, or do you just apply to the school?
Yeah, I actually did a short course. So it was like a 1-week course, just like very like intensive. You can enroll from anywhere. You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to. Anybody can enroll in those. Because it's not a degree, like you're not getting a BA or a master's, you don't have to go through like the visa and all that. It's just a temporary short course. So yeah, you kind of just sign up and show up.
Amazing.
And they're always really happy to see like international students. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was your biggest takeaways from that course?
Ooh, my biggest takeaway was really just like connecting to the other person. I found we did this exercise. There was one exercise that we did where, and I've done this before, but this is why I wanted to kind of go back, because sometimes like when you get into the industry, like you have the acting, which is like the craft, and then you have the industry, which is kind of a whole other beast. And sometimes it clouds your artistry and it actually kind of gets in the way of a lot of the things that you were taught, just like the raw, pure innocence of like acting and like getting into the character, connecting with your partner, all that kind of sometimes gets lost with the politics of the industry. And I found that that's what happened with me. Like I got caught up too much in thinking about, you know, like what I have to do, all the technical elements, eye lines, marks, getting, you know, meeting all the like political requirements, all the technical requirements, all that. I kind of like wanted to get back to like, all right, the actual like art and craft of acting and what makes me feel good in a scene. And
and play.
And so that like that course really brought me back to that. And there was this exercise where I stood in front of another actor and they were like, just look into their eyes, just like stare into their eyes for like a minute, and you couldn't lose eye contact with that person. And they had us say the lines that they gave to us on the sheet. And I literally, and the person, and the instructor, he said, he was like, look into their eyes and just think about them as a person. This is a person with hopes and dreams and like a childhood. Maybe this person went through trauma. Maybe this person, you know. And I was thinking all that, and I just started bawling my eyes out, just staring at this person. I was like, I love you. I don't know, I just met you, but I love you. And like, that was kind of what was going through my head. And like, that was a huge takeaway, because I was like, I want to experience that again. I felt like I haven't experienced that in a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so special.
Yeah. So, yeah, it really kind of like brought me back to what it's all about.
Yeah, the connection.
Yeah.
Nice. That's wicked. And so before that, at York University, you did a theater degree, right? How many years is a theater degree at York?
It's 4 years.
Okay.
I ended up taking a 5th year because I also wanted to do theater on the side. So,
nice.
So I was doing,
Might as well. If you're going there for theater, might as well do some theater.
There are a lot of opinions regarding kind of whether training should be isolated in order to kind of grow you as an artist in a particular like field of acting training.
Right.
So a lot of these like theater schools, they do like to isolate you and say like don't do any acting outside of this, out of school. But my view has always been that I want to like diversify my experience. I want to diversify my knowledge. I want to kind of take little tidbits, bits and pieces of all these different instructors or experiences and then kind of form my own process. So that's what I did. So I was also on top of doing theater school, like I was also, doing theater around the city, community theater, taking like workshops, all that.
Nice,
so, yeah.
Wicked, that's awesome. York University, what do you think was the biggest challenge going through the 4-year program for you?
Ooh. The biggest challenge? I think for me, this is just me personally. And like, to be honest, like I loved my experience at York University in theater. Like, anybody who kind of had a negative opinion or like experience with it is totally valid, but like I had an incredible experience. I learned so much from the teachers, and yeah, I really loved my time there. I would say maybe the biggest challenge, I believe that all theater is great theater and all theater serves a purpose. Musical theater, commercial theater, indie theater, devised theater, they all have their purpose, they all have their role, and there is a reason why different people love them for their individual things.
Right.
York University had this kind of view of certain types of theater, certain types of acting that they really frowned upon, which meant that I couldn't explore those things in that university, in that setting, which I think was a shame, and I think it's unnecessary, and I think we should just celebrate theater in all its forms.
Nice.
And yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's nice. What did you think was your biggest takeaway from York University?
Ooh. My biggest takeaway from York University, theater, right? Like the theater program. To be multidisciplinary, to be honest.
Okay, nice.
The theater at York program has they really kind of encourage, it's like I consider myself just a creative in general, and I've always been a creative. Like you said, it's like I'm acting, I'm singing, I'm also doing content creation. I've discovered that very recently and have been successful in it. I've done like producing, I've done directing. Theater at York really kind of encouraged artists to explore all these different avenues, not to zero in on acting, because there's just so many experiences, artistic experience to be had like outside of acting that can inform your acting or inform your career as an actor. If you're directing and producing, you're creating your own work, that can give you opportunities as an actor. Or like if you're doing content creation, like that's still a form of artistry. Or like, so it's like, yeah, so York really kind of encouraged that and kind of gave that well-rounded experience that I think was a really good thing.
Oh, wicked. Yeah. That's awesome. And if you were to do it all over again, would you go to university for acting or theater, something like that, or would you take a different route?
Honestly, I would probably take a different route. Like I said, I loved my time at York. Like I loved it, and like I'm not the type of person to dwell on like what I should have done. I'm not that type of person. I kind of just like take what I've done, and like I usually just say like, oh, that made me who I am today, so it must have been a great thing. But if I were to redo, I would probably have gone the route of either going to school in London and getting my degree in London, or I would have just done a shorter college course as opposed to like a 4 or 5 year university degree.
Okay, nice.
But I do think.
But again, no regrets.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, good to know. I just like asking people because we're very much of like this weird in between where like the older generation is like you have to go to school for what you want to do, and now like the younger generation, it's like, well, we can just kind of make
our own
classes.
path.
Yeah, exactly. We can take classes, make our own thing, or just jump into it and get going. So
I will say I did end up going to York because my parents were like, our one condition is you have to get a degree. That was honest, full, complete transparency. That was why I went to York, because it was like, it was definitely that kind of old school, like you need a university degree. Yeah, which makes sense because it was very much that way for their generation too, right? So it was, and I was kind of like, my parents have always been very supportive of me, and like they were like, we'll support you, we encourage you, but like you have to have a degree. So that was the one condition. So that's why I ended up doing that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. I think too, it's a good place to like learn discipline and that kind of stuff, because otherwise if it was like, okay, you can be an actor, like go and figure it out, I'd be like, I'll just wait at home and wait for someone to call me. And it's like, it doesn't work like that.
York was put us to work. York put us to work. They were very regimental with attendance, very regimental with work ethic. They made us, because it's a university, you have to take a certain amount of courses, credits in order to, so you're taking classes like 9 to 5, and then you have to do studio work or like you're doing in rehearsals from like 6 to 10. So it's like we're doing work for literally 14-hour days, which does prep you, because in real life, that is how you end up working.
That's true, that's true. It does prepare you for the long days, 100%, Do you like that busyness, go, of not having time to think about any negatives or any things that can come in, but just like, okay, I have to do this, now I have to do this, now I have to do this, now I do this? Or do you like having relaxed, okay, I have time to work on this and time to think about this and that kind of thing? Because I like thriving under like, okay, I have to do this now, and I don't have time to think about like, oh, what could go wrong, or my imposter syndrome, or things like that, like I like the busy.
I used to be like that, and I do think that York kind of like drilled that into me, because when I came out and I was out there, I was like, I have to be busy at all times, like I always have to be doing something, and it almost kind of and then the pandemic came, and I really struggled hard. I struggled really hard with the concept of doing nothing. It was very difficult for me. Very difficult. And then now that the pandemic's over, I actually kind of got used to, prioritizing quiet and peace and my mental health so I think I'm trying to find like a middle ground of like, I obviously still want to be advancing and doing things, but I also want to prioritize like my well-being. And I've discovered new hobbies during the pandemic, and I want to keep up those hobbies. I still want to have time for those. And so
And I think what's important too is that just because you're busy doesn't mean you're advancing, and just because you're taking a break doesn't mean you're not advancing.
100%.
Those two things can't exist at the same time.
And I think that like something that like as an artist, and something that a lot of artists need to hear, that I needed to hear, was that like you do not have to be defined by what you do. So like you are so much more than just an actor. You can be so much more than just an artist. You are so much more than just an artist. You shouldn't define your entire existence off of acting or your art, because that can really mess with your head. And like you need to like figure out who you are outside of acting. You need to figure out who you are as a person, what your other interests can be, hobbies, relationships, just so that you can just exist as a human being.
And when did you realize that? Like during the pandemic, or?
During the pandemic. Because I realized that I put my entire identity into being an actor, specifically a theater actor. So then when theater wasn't around, I was like, well, so who am I now? What am I? Because I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not acting in theater, so does that mean I'm not a theater actor? And that's not the case.
Yeah.
Even if you're not doing the thing, you're still an actor.
Exactly.
If you're like having a period of drought, which every actor goes through, a period where they're not booking, where things are not coming up, and you start to question, like, am I even an actor anymore? Should I even call myself an actor if I'm not actively working? And like, yes, you are, because that thing is always in you. But it's also important to find joy in other things and like know who you are outside of acting.
Yeah, absolutely.
For those times,
Yeah, 100%. So I wanted to talk about, so when did you decide, like after the pandemic, to start getting into film, or was that before?
It was slightly before. So like when I graduated, I got my first agent.
Okay, nice.
And so
are you still with that agent?
No, I'm with a different agent.
Okay, nice. Me too, don't worry.
I've hopped around with agents.
Yeah.
I recommend agent hopping. I think it's necessary. But so I had my first agent when I was like 23-ish when I graduated. And that's kind of when I first started to go into the film world, film TV world. I started auditioning. It was a hard transition for me, to be honest. For some people, it's like really easy. For me, it was difficult. And I had to take like a lot of like on-camera classes. The camera scared me, all that. And then I eventually really became comfortable with it. But it was around about 5 years ago that I've been doing film TV.
What was the difference between theater acting and film acting that you found a challenge?
It was a lot more technical.
Okay.
So film and TV, at least for me, I find that film and TV acting is a lot more technical. Being on a set, doing the stop and start constantly, redoing. You can't just, and not like your performance is not in your control. That's the other major difference, is that your performance is not in your control. I'm always aware, like as being on set, I'm trying to get out of this, but I'm always aware that it's like, as with the stop and start, I'm always thinking like, how is this going to be edited? How is this going to be spliced? Is it gonna be in a way that is accurate to my performance? So it's kind of like your performance is out of your control. It's very technical. There are a lot of technical things you have to be aware of, like going on your mark, eye line. These are things that you don't really have to think about when you're acting in theater. You're just doing it. It's a lot more like what's the word? Intrinsic. Right. So I think the technical elements have been the biggest challenge for me. The stop and start. Yeah, because like for theater, you just do like 2 hours just straight. Yeah, well, it's like you when and a whole story. In a theater, when you do a scene, like you started, and it's kind of like a wave just takes you. You go through the whole scene. And that's something that I struggled with. Having to like, especially if it's like an emotional scene, you're like crying, and then they're like, okay, cut, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna redo this in 5 seconds, and I'm like, don't go away, don't let them do that, I have to redo it, like, it's like, and then it's like, they're like, okay, now after you did it like 10 times, and now your face is sore, and you have a headache, and they're like, okay, and now we'll do a different angle, and I'm like, oh my god. At the beginning, that was like so tough for me. I was like, what do you mean? I just did it like 10 times in a row. Whereas for theater, it's kind of like, all right, you do the rehearsal, and it's like maybe you're rehearsing it a couple times. You don't have to do it full out. Maybe for the run through you'll do it full out, but then again, the run through is like you're not stopping. It's you're just going through it. So exactly. So it's definitely more like like theater acting. It feels more like intrinsic. Right. Nice. Awesome. That's cool. Again, good to know for the theater actors out there too. I mean, that's just me though. I don't want to speak for everyone. A lot of people have different. I'm sure people will be able to relate to the theater film. The differences. And I mean, I appreciate both. I think they both they both have, like, I enjoy both in a certain for different reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, because they are very different, because they're very different, I like them for
Nice.
for the individual things that they offer.
Right?
Yeah.
So you said you found bouncing around agents is necessary. So why, and then when do you think is the right time to move on to the next agent for you? Like, you don't have to speak for everyone. Everybody's going to be different.
Yeah. So this might be controversial because, I mean, you know, like we all know about, like, in traditional jobs, the, like, job hopping, where it's like, oh, if you go through too many, like, jobs too quickly, it's a red flag for employers, whatever.
Right.
I've heard a rumor. I remember I used to be scared of switching agents because I heard a rumor. There's a lot of misinformation out here in this industry. I heard a rumor where someone said that, you know, casting directors don't like it when you switch agents too often because they think it's like a red flag of, like, it means like you're not taking accountability for your own, or whatever. And that's bullshit. Like, that's bullshit. Anyone who says that, like, fuck them, because your career is truly in your own hands. And, like, it's so difficult out there. Everyone is out kind of for themselves and their own bag, their own money. You have to be out there for yourself, and, like, you have to be on your own team. And if that means having to change your representation, then you absolutely should do it. And your representation can make or break your career. So, like, that's why I think it's important. I think, you know, like, I think, like, there has to be a certain level of, like, accountability with yourself. Like, you should always be doing the work, always, like, putting effort, like, you know, like, take classes constantly, train constantly, like, go to networking events, try to, you know, kind of get connections that way, try to get new headshots whenever you need new headshots, like, do the work. But if you're doing the work and you're still not seeing results pop up in your career over a long period of time, and you're having conversations with your agent, which is important, if you're not seeing the communication, if you're not seeing the auditions, if you're not being seen for a long period of time, if you're falling under the cracks and you feel like your career is like slipping through your fingers, that's the time to switch agents. Because there is really only so much we could do. Like, we don't have a lot of the control. And if we're really doing whatever we can and it's still not sticking, if, like, the spaghetti that we're throwing at the wall just is not sticking, then it just maybe means that agent isn't the right one for you. And it's time to find one that might actually be the right one for you, that might know how to get you through those doors, how to get you seen.
Right.
So,
because it is a team effort. Like, both of you should be working towards the same goals that you have talked about. Yeah. Of where you want to be, where you see your career, where they say your career A should match, and then B should be working towards that. So yeah, if you found a team member that's not pulling their weight, or you know, it's not a match. And it's one of those things I find too with agents. It's like, what the agent that works for you might not be the agent that works for me.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that, you know, dating thing of, like, okay, I have some friends who are dating some people who I'm like, that's weird that works out for you, because that would never work out for me. Agents are the same thing, I find.
100%. And, like, you don't fully know whether you guys will click in your initial meeting. Like, you have the meeting where you kind of ask the questions, oh, what is your communication like, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it seems like it'll work out from the initial meeting, but like, you don't actually know. Like, you kind of have to, it's kind of like when
there is like a trial period.
There has to be a trial period. Yeah. And then you actually do find out whether that person is right for you.
Right.
So,
because that's true. I mean, in the initial meeting, even if it does go well and you do click, okay, but now actions have to back up words on both ends too.
Exactly.
So I think that's...
like I said, like, the most important thing is that, like, you're doing the work as much as you possibly can. Whatever is in your control, what little is in our control, you are doing it.
Right.
And you are trying to have that communication, and only if, you know, like you said, that their side, they're not delivering on their side. That's when it's time. And again, it's like, I do believe that there is no such thing as like a good or bad agent. It's a good or bad agent for you. Right. You know, so it's like you said, like, someone could be great for someone else and then like not really be able to get, you opportunities. And like that's not the agent that's the issue. It's just like maybe it's like, you know, it's just like your relationship with them, or like, you know, maybe it's your hit and like it's just more difficult to get you through the door with your hit, and they don't, you know, like they're struggling with that, and that's fine. So you find someone else who will be able to get you through the door. Right. So yeah.
Nice. And so when you with previous agents that you've had, have you had conversations with them just to almost like, not, I guess, confirm, or do you know, like, hey, I'm pulling my work, so like, what are you doing? Like, do you have those conversations with them, or how do you go about that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I like to have open communication with my agents as much as possible. If you're someone, there are some agents out there who maybe they don't have time to have that constant communication, and as long as you're okay with that, then that's right for you. Again, this is compatibility. If you're someone who wants that like constant open communication, but the agent does not want that, then that becomes an incompatibility, or like vice versa. Right. So like I like to always have open communication with my agents. I always want to feel comfortable to like text them or email them whenever I have a question, or if I see like a posting that I want them to submit me to, or if something's not working out. I usually email them or text them and kind of say like, hey, like, you know, I haven't heard anything for a while, like what can I do? That's usually how I always lead it, with like, what do you think I can do to get myself seen? So like, do you think I need new headshots? Do you think my headshots don't accurately represent me or like my hit? Do you think I need new demo reel material? Should I take classes? Do you recommend anybody? Which like, usually agents will have kind of their people that they'll recommend, and they're usually always happy to like make those connections. So yeah, like I always start off by asking like, what can I do if I'm seeing like a dry spell? And then like, and you know, always take up on what they offer, or like you don't have to, but like I like to. And that's kind of how I go about it. I usually kind of approach them whenever I feel like I need to approach them.
At least just to check in. Like, hey, how's everything going?
Just to check in. Just to check in. Like, sometimes I'll even like reach out to them and be like, you know, what's the haps in the industry right now? Like what's going on? You know, like when all the strikes were happening, I'd be like, hey, like, is there anything that might be affecting me right now? And just like kind of general like industry updates. I like to have those conversations. I think, again, like we have so little control over anything in this industry. I like to at least be up to date on things, or like be able to control what little I can.
That's fair. So for those who don't know, what is a hit?
Oh, a hit is like basically your look. So it's basically what it's just kind of like the character. I guess like the character archetype, just like the general basic description brunette, that white. You would fall under. So like for me, it's like I'm white, Caucasian, brunette, like green eyes. So it's kind of like which character. Also that it's kind of also just like, you know, whether you look. Some people, you know, it's like some people look edgy, and then they'll go for more of the like. The more of the femme fatale roles. Some people with me, like I kind of have more of like a baby face. I have like a round face. So it's like I go for more of the girl next door type of characters, younger characters. So like that's kind of what your hit is. It's like how you look is going to determine what type of roles you go out for.
Okay. Wicked. And so who's your agent now currently? Or do you have an agent currently?
I'm with Creative Drive Artists. Karen.
Excellent. And you're liking it?
Yeah, I'm liking it.
Excellent, nice. How long have you been with them?
About a little over a year. She's actually my third agent.
Okay.
My second agent, there was a situation, a fallout.
Oh yeah?
It was very public, but essentially like,
we don't have to dive into it if you don't want to.
Essentially like, I'm like, I don't want to be like sued or anything.
No, that's okay. You don't have to dive into it if you don't want to.
But like, if you know, you know. Like, if you know, you know. There was a big scandal about it, like about a year ago. It made the news.
Was that the money stealing
yes.
one? Okay, yes. Okay, yeah. Compass? Yeah. It's all right, I'll say your name. Compass.
Okay, cool.
But I heard about that. I had somebody else that was on their roster previously on the podcast and talking about that whole spiel.
Yeah.
So
it was crazy.
Was that like, so how did it end? Like, did you just get, I heard for some, they just got an email just saying, hey, we're closing down. Sorry, bye.
Yeah, that was me. I just got an email out of the blue one day randomly. Some people knew, some people were kind of in the know. Some people on the roster were in the know and kind of quietly left and dropped off. And I started noticing people dropping off. And I was just kind of like, what's happening? I was a little bit anxious about it. And then, we got that email randomly all of a sudden. That was basically like, like shit's hitting the fan. And it really caught me off guard. I was very shocked. I was out for money.
I didn't know that could happen with legitimate agency, because you hear about the agencies that are agencies and they're scams. It'd be like, sign up for my agency.
Scams.
They sign up for my agency, give me $1,000 and I'll get you work, things like that. But they're like Tamac.
They were legit. They were so legit.
They were legitimate.
And they had a good reputation. They had like people on their roster that had amazing reputations. Yeah, it was so shocking to so many people.
Yeah, it was definitely
it kind
weird.
of like rocked the boat.
It really did. Yeah. It was really, so when that happened and now you have to look for another agent, are you worried because everybody else is also looking for an agent too, or did you find it not as difficult, or was it easy getting another one?
I was a little bit worried because everyone else was also looking, but I also know that Compass was kind of a moment where like the industry really like came together and rooted for you.
That's fair.
So, it was, there was a lot of support from a lot of like big wigs in the industry to kind of encourage agents to take Compass artists. Right. So like, I think like ACTRA came through and encouraged the agent, like all the agents to, take the Compass actors.
Nice.
So and I had a lot of agents, like I submitted to a bunch, even the ones that didn't take me or didn't like offer a meeting, they said like the sweetest things. Like they were kind of like, I'm so sorry what happened to you. Like I really hope, like I'm really rooting for you. So like everyone kind of pulled through.
And so when you were submitting to agents, what did you give as like your package? Like obviously like headshot, resume, that kind of thing.
Yeah, headshot, resume, demo reel is probably like the most like really important.
Nice.
And then just kind of like a little blurb like, hi, I'm Paulina. Like I don't think you need a whole cover letter, but just kind of a little introduction, tell them who you are. Yeah.
Nice. And so your demo reel, do you have that from previous work and like indie films, or how did you make your demo reel?
Yeah, so like previous work from like whatever work I did, whatever work I got, because sometimes you like do stuff and then it just kind of disappears and it's just floating in space.
The amount of footage I will never get back.
It never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
So whatever, I know. So whatever it is you did that you got the footage of.
Yeah.
I also have some like self-tapes that I'm really proud of. I put in there like, I actually love to see like self-tapes.
I did some self-tapes as mine previously. I don't have an agent right now. I'm in between if you're looking. But
slay. Slay. She's up for grabs.
Here I am. But
come get her.
First come, first serve. But so I like self-tape, and I found someone made a good point of they want to see what your self-tape setup looks like. And because that's what you're going to be submitting to like casting directors and to projects. And so like if you showing your setup is kind of beneficial to be like, hey, this is what it's going to look like when I submit stuff, it's not going to be like a messy room background or whatever. And like I have a proper setup, so like I know what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah,
like,
in this like post-COVID world, you basically have to have a home studio at this point. That's the expectation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
I hate when the auditions are like, okay, so we want you to do this, and it's like a whole bunch of physical activity of like moving from one space to another, you know, do jumping jacks over here and then burpees, and then you're gonna like run this way, and you're like, where am I gonna do this in this tiny ass apartment?
Oh my God, I know.
It's the worst.
I know, it's so unrealistic.
Yeah, they're like, film the whole commercial for us.
Yeah. The commercials are always silly. They're always silly.
Yeah, they're so...
Sometimes they ask you, yeah.
I had one that was like, lick your fingers and then realize that you... Oh no, it was something like lick your fingers and realize that it's like all over your face, and you start like licking your face and whatever the product was all over your hands and face, and so you're just like trying to eat yourself. And I was like, this is gonna be fun. Yeah. I was like, this is not what I expected to do this morning, but okay.
I had a commercial audition where they wanted me to do like jujitsu.
Oh, nice.
And like that was not on my special skills resume. I was very confused. I was like, how do I even
YouTube?
I was like, how do I even do jujitsu? Also, how do I do it in my little like 3x3 like studio space?
Right,
like,
exactly. Like negative space to do this, and then your frame is like this.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, I guess it's all arms.
I know. I was like, what do I do? I literally just did something very like stereotypical. Like, oh, like I was like, how do I do this without also being offensive? And also like, I don't know what jujitsu is.
I also don't know what I'm doing. To YouTube.
Yeah, literally.
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, some of the commercials are so...
It was so silly.
So silly. Fun and silly. Do you ever get like tired of doing, or dreading, not dreading is a bad word. Do you ever get tired of doing like commercial auditions or any auditions in particular?
Yes.
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 I like, the thing I love about acting is that you can go to work after waking up and looking like trash. And it's like, because someone's gonna do your hair and makeup. But for auditions, I sit there and I'm like, I gotta do my hair and my makeup and get ready for this 30-second commercial audition. And so, but I love doing it. I love doing it. It's just the act of getting ready to do it is like the biggest.
Yeah, it does take a lot of time doing a self-tape, because it's kind of like you're a makeup artist, you're the wardrobe. You always have to think about wardrobe, especially for commercials. Yeah. They'll sometimes specifically ask,
can you wear a jersey? Wear
specific things. And then you have to rummage through your closet and be like, do I have the specific clothing item that they want me to wear? Right. And you could basically have to like create like a costume for yourself.
Yeah. You are your own teeny tiny production.
Exactly. And then you have to come up with your own props. They always want props. They don't want you to mime things. So you have to find props.
Like you're cooking. You're mixing stuff in a bowl. Like, no, get the whisk, get the bowl.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, oh my God, I have a funny story. I recently just did a commercial callback, and I was in Montreal, so it was virtual, but because I was in Montreal, it was like they wanted a specific outfit. They wanted you to wear pastels, like a pastel dress thing, and I was like, I didn't pack that. Right? So I went, it was like 7 p.m. at night, and like the callback was the next morning, and I like went into Montreal, like the city, and I was just like going through these stores being like, please, like someone have a pastel dress, and I literally bought this pastel dress just for the callback.
Amazing.
And I was like, all right, I got it. And then I also bought a baby toy, because they were like, you need to have a baby toy as a prop. So I like bought my costume, I bought my prop, I didn't book it.
Of course not.
I was on hold, but I didn't book it.
On hold's so good.
Yeah,
Don't you love the callbacks, just to be like,
it's a win.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 100% a win. I take it as a win. So
have to.
Yeah. Although it is a little gut wrenching. It hurts extra hard when you're like get that far and then still don't book it.
Yeah, that's true.
It does sting a bit.
It does sting, but yeah, you do have to focus on like, I did a good job and they like me. And then you're right, like the next, because you're on hold, is obviously between you and somebody else.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, unbeknownst to us, they went the other way.
Yeah.
And it will be like,
casting decisions.
It could be anything.
Yeah, it could literally just be like they didn't like. You like reminded them of like their ex or something.
That's like I said in the last
Yeah,
interview.
like it could literally be something so random. Like it could be like I bought that pastel dress. Maybe they were like, oh, she did a great job in her performance, but like I don't like how she looks in that pastel color. And like that was the final decision, you know? Like it's literally, they make their final decision based off the randomest things. That is
and
really.
it could just be like, okay, we have a blonde and we have a brunette.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with the blonde one. You know,
it could be like your height. Like, which you can't control your height. You know, like out of control. It could, if they're casting a group of friends or like or a family, like they need to make sure that all those people look believable as a group of friends or a family. You know? So that's 100% just like your face. Like your look.
Just a look. Not on talent. Talent got you on hold though.
Maybe. Or maybe it was my face. Who knows?
Both.
It really
we'll
could
say
be.
Both. We'll say both.
It could be my face. It could be my hair color.
It can be a lot of things, but we're going to go with face and talent.
We'll go with that.
I love it. I love it. For acting on film and auditions and all that kind of stuff, what do you find is the most difficult part of the acting process?
I mean, this is like obvious, like obviously the rejection, the rejection, and just the not knowing why you were rejected, being kind of like being comfortable in the unknown or accepting the unknown was something that was difficult for me to overcome because like I've always been a control freak. So it's like, if I didn't get something, I would like stew over like, why didn't I get it? What was it? And then I'd like overanalyze my audition, like every single choice I made, and I'd be like maybe it was this specific choice, or maybe it was this specific choice, and kind of like I had to let go of that because you will never know. You have to learn to be okay with never knowing and just moving on. and
not even hearing like the no. Like you just gotta send out your stuff and unless it's yes, you're ghosted.
So like, and you know, at the end of the day, like it's almost like you don't really need to know because like what we spoke about, how like it's usually things that are not performance related. Like, you know, like if you reached out, let's say theoretically you knew the director, you knew the casting director personally, and you reach out to them like, hey, why didn't I get this? Like a likely answer could be like, it was just your vibe. Like, and then you're like, what do I do with that? Or
what's wrong with my vibe?
Or they could just be like, oh, like it's your hair color, or you know, it's like it was like they didn't like how you looked in the outfit you wore, or like, you know, it's like things like that. Or the other person, I had a friend once, he was in the final 2 for a big role on a TV show, and because he was so far ahead, and I hope he's okay with me sharing this, he was so far ahead that the director actually did reach out to him to explain why he wasn't chosen. And the reasoning that he gave was, he basically was like, you just look a little too young.
Oh, wow.
And that was it. And he was actually more upset with the feedback than the rejection.
Oh, no way.
Because he was like, I actually would have rather not known.
Really?
I would have rather have been ghosted than to know that I missed out on this part for such an insignificant thing that is out of my control.
Fair. I can understand that.
And
but I would almost like knowing, it's like, okay, well, it's nothing that I did wrong. I was like, okay, well, that it has nothing to do, like I'm still, well, I mean, if you're getting a call back and you're so far in the process, you're obviously doing something right.
Exactly.
Right? So I think you would know that anyway, but I would kind of, I don't know. I think I would like to know, just to be like, first of all, nobody even does that. Like, I've not heard a lot of instances where people reach out and be like, hey, you didn't make it and this is why. I've rarely ever heard that happen. So just to do that is kind of nice. And then to know that it wasn't anything I did wrong would make me cry less. I'd still be upset. I'd still be crying.
I mean, it was obviously a huge win, but it's kind of like reiterates my point of like, it's always,
you never know.
Most of the time, the choice is made over something like aesthetic or cerebral that can't really be explained rationally, or it's not really always skill-based. So like we'd like to think that this is a meritocracy, but it's not. It's not a meritocracy, and you kind of, you know, it's like you can have the most talented people just struggling hard and banging their head against the wall, and then you can also have people who maybe didn't go through training and didn't really do all that work that they say you're supposed to do, and they're somehow like constantly booking and doing all the things, and like you know, it's like it's not there's no, like, unlike other careers where it's like if you do do A and B, you'll get to C. That's not the case here. It's not,
it's very different.
It's not merit based, it's not skill based a lot of the time, so you do kind of have to make peace with that, and like I've had to make peace with that, and I think it's actually freeing. It's like so much more freeing. It also helps you get out of your ego,
kind of takes the pressure off yourself.
Exactly. It's like, you know, it's like you just go in and you just have to do your best. You don't have to think like I have to be the best, because sometimes maybe you are the best and you still won't get it. So like just don't stress about being the best. Like exactly.
So for auditions, do you still get nervous, or you? Okay. So like, or have you reached the point where you're just like, this is what I got, enjoy?
I get very nervous.
And how do you deal with the nerves before an audition?
So I do a couple of things. I usually always try to do like physical movement. Like I'll like either like work out or do some kind of like jumping jacks, or like, because I find that like, you know, it's like you kind of have to like work off the nerves.
Release
it's
the
in
energy.
The body, you know, it's like it's in the body, you know, it's tension, it's maybe like jitters, like if you just kind of like, and like, you know, exercise releases endorphins, which is like the hormones will naturally calm you. So it's like, I try to do some like movement, either running or jumping jacks or like weights or something before. And then, kind of like remembering to breathe, which seems obvious, but I sometimes do forget. I'll just like, it's the fight or flight or freeze mode, you know, like that naturally happens when you're nervous like that. It's like you just stop breathing, and it actually makes things worse.
Or even just like the shallow breaths, you're like, no, I need to take like a deep diaphragm breath, and
and the working out like that, or the movement helps with that. So but you know, I do get nervous a lot. I think like it's okay to be nervous. Everyone gets nervous, to be honest. Like it's comforting sometimes to see like, you know, like people like on Broadway or like A-listers still saying that like they still get nervous. It's like, it's a human thing. Like it's natural. It's something that everyone goes through. You really just kind of have to like give yourself grace. And I think that's when the nerves dissipate, is when you like, give yourself that grace, take the pressure off yourself. Like, you know, sometimes I even tell myself, like, you know, if you messed up, that's fine. Like, if you mess up, if you forget your lines, like, you're fine. You're still amazing. And you're still gonna kill this. Like, so it's things like that, like, kind of to take that pressure off. Mine,
I like to remind myself that even if I screw up, like, I will wake up tomorrow. You know, like,
I always get myself a post-audition treat. So like, so like no matter what, like no matter how the audition went, even if I bombed it, even if, you know, something really embarrassing happened, or if I did great or whatever, you know, no matter what, I always give myself a post-audition treat. So that way I have something to look forward to.
Amazing.
And I always feel good after the audition, even regardless of how it went.
That's awesome. I did that once for an audition that I thought I bombed. And so I went and I was like, you know what? Well, I did the damn thing anyway, so I'm gonna go get a treat. And then I ended up booking it. I was like, I thought I did bad.
Sometimes it's also just like the energy you put out into the universe with that. You know, it's kind of like if you go out there being obsessive about it, like, oh my God, like overanalyzing everything you did, you know, kind of like you're not kind of in like that abundance mindset. Whereas like if you let go, you know, like the universe is more likely to like call you to it. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I like that. I like, abundance work is something that I need to like work on as actors. Well, I mean, as anybody, but like,
it's hard.
It's so hard, because it's so easy to just get in your head and hear the voices that are telling you all the crap.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Was that something that you discovered through COVID as well, or was that before? Like you've been working on like mindset or you know?
Yeah, it's something that I figured out through COVID. I did a lot of soul searching during COVID.
Yeah.
That was my time. That was my time to just sit at home and kind of like discover myself, kind of work through the things I didn't like about myself.
Right. I like to call the period of COVID just like the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
Because like everybody had time to just be with themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing. Like, you know, obviously like COVID was kind of like a tragic period, but I also think that like for some people, like a lot of kind of good came out of that in that sense. Or something productive came out of it in that sense.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like, I kind of made a lot of realizations about myself, a lot of kind of toxic thought patterns that I wanted to get out of, that I think were actually holding me back. So,
right.
Yeah, I
and
think
so how do you
important.
combat the voices in your head?
I find that the best way to combat the like negative voices in your head is to acknowledge them first. Because if you don't, they will always be there and you'll always be aware of them. They don't go away.
They'll just resurface.
So they resurface, they're under the surface, and they'll sometimes resurface in really more toxic ways. Like they kind of come out of nowhere when you don't need them. And so I like to acknowledge them. So like, you know, one thing that I've struggled a lot with, and I know a lot of other actors struggle with, is like comparison and like jealousy. You know, like you see someone else getting what you want. And you can't help but have those voices in your head be like, why not me? Like, what do they have that I don't have? Like, I know everyone goes through that. I think it's important to like acknowledge that and be like, kind of like, okay, this is jealousy. Like this is, you know, like what is this, and then I'll kind of be like, what is this jealousy saying about myself? Like, what do I think I lack in? And then I say like, all right, thank you, jealousy. Like, I'm gonna move on now. Like that's kind of like what I talk to myself, because it's like you do have to acknowledge the emotion or the thought pattern, and once you acknowledge it, it does kind of like go away, because it's almost like, it's kind of like the boogeyman. Like it's kind of like once you face it, it's not scary anymore. So it's like, it's I find that like acknowledging it first, and it does take a lot of ego work to acknowledge that, to say that like I am having jealous thoughts, or I'm comparing myself to others. But once you do that, I find that it does go away, and I'm actually able to see things a lot more clearly, and I'm actually genuinely able to feel happy for other people, and I'm actually able to kind of feel excited for myself as well, to be like, you know, like I always say that like a win for any actor is a win for all actors, because it means that the jobs are there. It means that the opportunities are there, and if it's happening for someone, you know, it's gonna happen. It can happen to you too. It means that the jobs are flowing, so that's a good thing.
Yes. So, and I like knowing too that like the voices of jealousy and you know all the other negative voices, they're just kind of passengers in the car. Like they're not driving the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you let them drive the car.
Yeah, that's the difference. Is that like. If you are letting it drive the car, that's going to be very toxic for you and other people. And I've been around people who let their jealousy drive them, and their actions and their words, and it's very horrible to be around. And it's horrible for themselves too, like for yourself. Because like we said, like you need to have that kind of like positive, abundant mindset in order to attract the career that you want. And you're not having that if you're constantly obsessing over what other people are doing and what you're lacking in. So and
it's just nicer to be happy for someone than jealous of them.
God,
it's just such a better feeling.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Like
Not always easy to do, but I mean, once you get in practice,
and I think that's I think that's okay to acknowledge, because like, you know, we're all human, we all experience it. And we just have to acknowledge it and move on from it.
Absolutely. Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for your openness and kindness in this interview. I love it so much. I like to finish with fast 5 questions. So what is your favorite beverage?
Coffee.
Coffee. Nice.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Specifically iced coffee.
Oh yeah? I like iced coffee in the summer.
Yeah.
I'm like a seasonal coffee drinker.
I drink iced coffee all year round like a psychopath.
Yeah? Nice. If I'm craving coffee, I'll gear towards iced coffee rather than, but I'm more of a tea person than a coffee person. Anyway, it's not about me, it's about you. So what is your favorite genre to watch?
I know this is speed round. I'm sorry.
No, they're never fast. I'm never fast. I always get Gabby. It's all good.
Historical fiction.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Ooh, nice.
I'm a period piece girl.
I love period piece.
I would love to be in a period piece. If you're a casting director and you're watching, or a director, I want to be in a period piece.
Yes. Cast us both.
Cast me in a period piece.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, period pieces are awesome. Yeah, go to London.
I know.
Yeah, London is your home.
Know.
Oh my gosh. And what is a pet peeve that you have?
Oh man. I have too many. I maybe my red flag is I have too many pet peeves.
That's hilarious.
I guess a big pet peeve of mine is when people interrupt me. Like if I'm talking and then people start talking over me. That's a big pet peeve.
I'm so guilty of doing that. I'm so guilty. But because I came, okay, well, thank you. I try not to here. But in talking with friends, I used to be so bad at doing that. But it's because I come from a family where if you're not like yelling loudly, if you're not yelling the loudest, you're not heard. So it's
feel
just
that.
like, you have to interrupt to talk. So yeah, I'm learning not to do that. Okay. The podcast helps.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite guilty pleasure show?
Emily in Paris.
Emily in Paris.
I will fight for Emily in Paris.
Yeah?
Like
I think I only watched like 2 episodes and I never got into it.
I will go to war for Emily in Paris. It is so like trash talked, but it is so fun.
Yeah?
It's so fun.
I'll have to give it another shot.
I love it. Like I watch it religiously.
That's amazing. My guilty one is even trashier. So and I haven't watched all. I can't say that Emily in Paris is trash because I've only watched like 2 episodes and I don't remember. So Emily in Paris. And then the last question is a piece of advice that you would give to actors starting out on their journey or to your younger self.
Oh wow. I would honestly say the biggest thing that I would say to my younger self or to anyone just starting out, don't listen to anyone other than yourself. Like truly. So many people have so many opinions about you, about this industry.
Yep.
Everyone thinks they're an expert in entertainment because they watch movies and read tabloids. They think they're like, they have a degree in the entertainment industry.
Right.
And they'll all give you all these unsolicited advice, these kind of projections, these things that they think they know. There's so much misinformation out there. Truly, like, don't listen to anybody, and your gut will have the answers to all of your questions.
Nice.
So, and your gut is the only one that's gonna like pull you through this industry. And you're in it by yourself. You're in it, it's like it's you against the world kind of. So like you have to be your biggest cheerleader, you have to be your biggest guru. So
nice.
Listen to yourself.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this podcast.
Thank you.
I truly did have an awesome time interviewing you. So
thank
you for reaching out. I so loved it.
For sure. Thanks for the platform.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out more interviews just like this, head to my channel, Creative Full Time. I'm Allison Mullings. Let me know in the comments your favorite takeaway from this interview. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you'd like to help in keeping this podcast going, you can head to my website, AllisonMullings.com. There's a place to donate so that we can keep doing this and keep advertising and promoting Canadian talent. So thank you so much, and see you in the next interview.